Hello, space fans. My god, it's been a while. Lorenzo here, episode 26 of Tylo and Eeloo, and we fade in, or rather jump in, here with this ancient probe sent to Jool. It's named Probe Eeloo, but that's a decoy for the space aliens. So I think some explanation is in order. Why the hell did it take more than a month for the next episode, when usually they come just a few days apart? Well, many things. One has been the go-to excuse of any man since the history of time is his work has been really busy. I've saved my employer millions of dollars and they were very happy, but it took all my spare time, and that was me stomping my desk. It is sort of true. I worked a few weekends and got tired because of it, but that wasn't the whole month. Some other things that happened was my PC had problems, it was overheating, the coolers broke, so I splurged on a massive Cooler Master Stormtrooper case, which cools it a little bit better. It was a bit of overkill. This thing is really massive. I had to actually fold down the seats in my car to fit it in, which I did not expect. That was a surprise. But so yeah, I got some new computer, well, not actually computer hardware, got some new cooling stuff, which should be nice. Very important, as we know as space aficionados, cooling can be life or death. Right. More things. I finished Dragon Age, which is of no benefit at all to you guys, but it was a nice game with a good story, which did take about 60 hours to complete. No apologies there, that was really good. And on the other side, the reason I have time to record the video now is that yesterday the butchers in the hospital violenced my cheekbone, so now I have blood in my mouth. I'm high on painkillers a little bit, but I can play space games and yell at the computer. At least for a bit, not too long at a time, because then the blood will start being, well, prohibitive. But let's not dwell on those technicalities. Let's do some spacing. We have our probe here. This was just here for introductory purposes. It has some ways to go still. Look at that. It still needs about 2 years and 100 days of flight time, so that'll probably take forever. Alright, onto the Space Center. Now what we have is of course the ambition to colonize Tylo and Eeloo, which are really far away. We have our tech tree here, and this is starting to get interesting. We have some science on the way, at least. Well, I'll do some summarized missions to get science points. And what was I gonna say? I was heading in the direction of unlocking lots of colonization parts, which I think is in progress at the moment, even as we speak. But where are they? Well, yeah, screw it. Imagine I clicked on a very clarifying node. We are researching lots of tech, that's what I'm gonna say. And then we'll unlock modules that we can put on planets, and then Kerbals can live there. I think that's the point. But for now, we're gonna practice landing. So I built the heavy lander, which is destined for Eeloo. No, correction, Tylo. Because look, that's the time we're living at now. It's the Kerbin to Jool launch window, which will happen in a day. Rolling out will take 4 days. That will give you some inkling as to the size of this thing. And it's basically nothing but fuel and a very tiny robotic lander. And the plan here is to land on Tylo and see if that's even possible. Because landing on Tylo is supposed to be really hard. It is always dark there, which is not actually true. The planet's got the same mass as Kerbin, yet no atmosphere. So there's no aerobraking. So you have to bring, well, I don't know how much. You have to bring lots and lots of delta V to slow down and land on it. So that's why we commissioned the heavy lander. And here it is. It's got lots of fuel, and look at that, the lander is like right on top of there. It's just this bit. So we'll see how this goes. I think I tested this, otherwise I probably wouldn't have built it. But let's warp to the daytime, just so we can be sure that we can see whatever happens. You will notice that I'm not very confident or knowledgeable. This is partly due to the wooziness of the surgery and partly due to the fact that it's been more than a month since the last video. So what to do? Press Z for throttle. Press T for stabilization. We don't have that. Cool. Let's check the staging. We have lots of engines firing. Then they're all dropping away. Then, yeah, should be fine. Go. It's going up. That's good. As soon as we pass the hairy bit of this flight, I will give you a contemporary media recommendation, which is fancy speak for a book and a film that you need to see. It's about space, sort of. It's about Mars, sort of. And it's about Jebediah Kerman, sort of. Have I piqued your interest? I hope so. I forgot how the aerodynamics model worked. I'm not quite sure I'm happy with the stock way of doing things. Not for any scientific reason, but just because I can't seem to fly my ships anymore. But that's physics. You can't mold them to your desires, except when you're a modder. Separation is coming up. Let's cut the engines and do that. Yes, let's fire the engines and go away. Boom, that happened. We're at 7 kilometers only. I think the screen shuddering there means there's lots of explosions happening. I also think that this thing is feeling really jiggery pokery, and that's science speak for it's scary as hell to fly it. You may notice that there's no engines on these fuel tanks. They are just fuel tanks. If and when this thing gets to Tylo, it will be a big challenge to actually land it. And this flight, I think, will be fairly long. But don't worry, I've got many things to talk to you about. First and foremost, though, we're at 16 kilometers, so we can start attempting to do our pitch over maneuver for an actual orbital insertion. Again, more jiggery pokery at work. What we have here is 4 times the skipper engine and 1 time the poodle. We, as of yet, haven't unlocked the mainsail of things yet, and the poodle is there for atmospheric efficiency, no, for vacuum efficiency. It's really efficient in vacuum, but it only pushes very slightly, so that's sort of a problem. Alright, we emptied some tanks. Let's throw them away. Oh, that's going frighteningly slow, and let's fire up the engines again. One thing they do in that contemporary media reference, I'm gonna refer and advise you on, is they need to rendezvous with the main character, and everything is really horrible. They patched up a spaceship with canvas tarp, and the big one only has ion engines, and they can't make the rendezvous, so they blow open the side of their hull and do it with depressurizing air. Yeah, that's really cool. Alright, screw it. The book is The Martian by Andy Weir. You need to go read it. And there is a film being made, so if reading's not your thing, it will be in cinemas in November. So that's only a few months off. And my god, I found this thing on the internet, and I saw that there was a book as well, and I went and read it. I read it in one evening, and it's amazing. There is a review on the internet out there somewhere, and that's actually what pointed me to it. And it says, it's a 1-sentence review. It's, imagine that scene from Apollo 13 where they need to fit the CO2 filter, just, you know, the square in the hole. Yeah, the whole book is like that. And I can't top that review. It's just great. There's a guy he's left behind on Mars accidentally, and he has to MacGyver his way back to space and survive, and everything goes wrong, and then he fixes it, and it's fairly light reading. I mean, it's not too technical, it's just cool, and I wonder what they're going to do with the film. It's going to be a pretty big one, I think. They've got Matt Damon, and he was pretty okay in Interstellar. Anyway, that thing, I really enjoyed the book tremendously. I think you can pick it up for a few dollars around the interweb stores, and, well, you should. It's a blast. Anyway, there's blood in my mouth again. I actually chewed open the wound. Shouldn't do that. Alright, yeah, we are almost in orbit. Surely that's good news. That's my media recommendation out of the way. There's something else as well, and this may never materialize, but I'll save that for after we do some more rocketing burns. Let's see, we are virtually in orbit. That went better than expected, really. Let's ditch these outer tanks. They will crash safely back to the planet. Look, we're only at 12 kilometers periapsis. And we will fire up the poodle again. We're rotating. Things don't seem to be very controllable, but Well, it could be worse. We could be plummeting through the atmosphere, screaming to a fiery death. I may have to cut out the video for a bit because, of course, this engine will take forever to burn through all the fuel it has. I think it's designed to not even finish before we're actually around Tylo. This will be the first stage of our deceleration drive. Oh well, let's see. Are we in orbit yet? Taste of blood is getting serious now. I suppose astronauts have to deal with worse. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Ignore it. Cool. We are going in a fairly high orbit. 65 kilometers. That will have to do for now. Where actually are we? Are we? Oh, we're still not even at our apoapsis yet. Yeah. So this orbit is wonderful. Let's try and plot an intercept. And as we've done it so many times, I will stop the video and show you the intercept now. Boom! And there we have it, a Joule encounter in 2 years and 17 days. That is actually shorter than the probe Eeloo has yet to go. I think that says something about that horrendous trajectory. But this is just a projection. This is just a projection. We will in fact need to do a 2 km per second burn, which will take 7 minutes. Fortunately, our orbit is fairly high at this point, which accidentally yielded great results, and I think we can do it over there. So let's time warp to that point, and then once we're doing that burn, I will tell you about my project. It wasn't a project yet. My vague idea for a plan for a project. Which I'm... oh no, stop it. We are at... Let's light the engine just ever so slightly to steer. You see, our burn will take 7 minutes. Our node will happen in 5 minutes. That means I want to start burning in just over a minute. Because I want to try and straddle that node. I'm going to burn 2 kilometers per second. And then readjust the maneuver node and see if we can actually make it. But things were looking pretty good. Things were looking pretty good. We are sending hardware to Tylo, which is great, actually. Cool. Stop the engine. Time warp just a little bit more. Okay, here we go. 3.14 minutes, full burn. There's some red spatters on my keyboard. No, I'm joking. I'm exaggerating. It's not that bad. There's just 2 sizable holes in my mouth. Apart from the air and food hole. Blah, never mind. Never mind. I'm gonna just ignore that. Right. Burnings are happening. So what I want to do, I want to make a video game. Alone. By myself. The project is doomed before I even start. But on the other hand, it's only a small game. I think it's gonna be a sort of idle game plus, where you send cargo ships to planets and discover things and build more stuff and gradually unlock the dark secrets of the universe and colonize the other planets and blow up. So there will be no graphics. There will be a simple graphical user interface, but everything will be numbers based, and I will write text things that will be fun to read and discover, and I hopefully will be able to create a compelling universe that people will want to wait for hours, days, months to unlock, because I want to have this be somewhat real time. I'll magic in a few point something percent light speed drives, and then people will have to wait the appropriate time to play it. So it will be nice to play on mobile, or just, I don't know, something that doesn't require long stretches of time investment. I will call it Humanity, and it will have a story about the origins and demise of humanity, while the demise will be sort of in your hands, I suppose. Do I know programming? Yes, I do. I know SAS, data analytics, finance programming. I don't think that makes a game. But I program on a daily basis, so I think I should be able to learn a language that does. And I've chosen Python to do it. I'm fooling around with it on checkio.org, which is a nice coder playground on the interwebs. And I got a book written for teens on how to make your first video game. This is really funny. They say you should be able to do this all by yourself, and then on the next page they go, you may have to ask an adult to install this program. So yeah, I've got my programming knowledge all lined up, and I suppose it will be a back burner hobby project. Because hey, ever since I started coding for work about a year ago, 8 months, I found out I quite liked it. And I also like space, and I have ideas all the time, and I don't have enough patience to write an actual book, so maybe I can write something in code with tidbits of story in between. Anyway, it's going to be called Humanity, and it may very well never progress from this stage as a wild idea, but maybe it will. If it will, I will release it in all its ugly forms on the internet and offer it up for anyone to judge, see, and possibly comment on. That's that. I told you about the Martian, I told you about humanity, I told you about my bleeding mouth. We're only halfway through this burn. Aren't we becoming close friends? I'll do what I always do. I've been staring at just this burning blip of fuel for a while now and turn off the video until we finish off this burn, and then we'll see what we'll do next. See you in a bit! And who's the best spaceman in the world? You're obliged to say Lorenzo. And yes, he is. Of course, it's Lorenzo. No one else could have done this Tylo intercept better than he did. Wowzers. From one burn, okay, actually it was 3, in the orbit of Kerbin, straight on in a whamboozle of a line, just 1 year and 366 days to the dual encounter, upon which we'll see what to do then. Cool. We have just a bit of fuel left here, which is always useful, I suppose. Then we can switch to these other fuel burners and land this tiny core on Tylo. Or more likely crash it, but this will be the first sampling of that planet's gravity field. Yeah. So the next thing we have, let's go to the Space Center to actually verify that. Well, not to verify that, but to be able to do something about that. The next thing we have is a launch window to Eeloo. A launch window to Eeloo. And let's actually have a look at our active contracts. Visual surveys of the moon. These turned out to be quite difficult. Extracting ore. We haven't done that at all yet. It could be interesting from Minmus. 2 vessels docking. We could fairly easily do this. Oh, we failed a lot of that. We failed at a lot of those dockings because the ports were wrong. Cool. Yeah, so we have some foobard stuff. Also, we have a silo full of carbonite, which we can do something with. What we can do with this is we can build an oversized first stage. Let's see, where's the carbonite? Here it is. We've got all the carbonite in the world. We got a bit. What we can do is build an oversized, inefficient but brawny first stage, which will lift something ungainly into space. But first we have the launch window to Eeloo, a low delta V and a slow trajectory. So we could send, and then like 50 days later we'll have a high delta V and a less slow trajectory, so that one will actually overtake the low delta V trajectory. So we can launch something that needs to get there first, but we'll have to launch it second. Or we can just not launch something there at all. Because we have a voodoo scanner that's arriving at Eeloo in 5 years. Well, we can attempt to send a second scanner at the high delta V point. Let's see. I think we can try and send a base module on the low delta V trajectory. Why the low delta V trajectory? Because the base modules are fairly heavy and ungainly and unaerodynamic, and it's not ideal to send them on the slow path, but it may be our only reasonable option because of the delta V limitation. Yeah, we're gonna send a base module to Eeloo on the slow path. And do we want to send something on the fast path? Which is only relatively fast. I mean, it's not going to get there in like a year. It's going to get there in like 3.5 instead of 7 years. We can send a second probe. We can send a... Hell, we can send another version of the heavy lander. I mean, that thing performed pretty well. We can send this... No, because the high delta V and less slow. The heavy lander has lots of delta V. We have designed it. Yeah, what I'm gonna do, I'm going to design a simple low delta V base module and build that, and then I'm gonna build another version of the heavy lander and send that to Eeloo, and then the next episode will be Eeloo targeted, and then in the episode after that we will do contracts and further our understanding of science, and then we're gonna probably end up time warping a whole bunch just to get some feet on the ground on Eeloo and Tylo. For now, I'm gonna wash my mouth and spit out this blood, drink more coffee, and be a healthy man. Thanks for watching. Thanks for the patience in this episode. The patience for this episode. Anyway, the willingness to wait until this episode came. There will be more, but my life is hectic. No promises, but there will be more. Thanks. See you later. Goodbye.